morning, warriors. Please join me in the pledge to the Bible. I pledge allegiance to the Bible, God's holy word. I will make it a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. I will hide its words in my heart, that I might not sin against God. Join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This week we are going over our school rules. I think yesterday Mrs. Blackshear talked about obedience. Yes? Okay. Yeah. So let's do our school rules. Obey. Fear God. And keep His commandments. Honor others. Above yourself. Do your work. As unto the Lord. And do everything. Without complaining or grumbling. We're also working through our catechism questions to help us understand the Word of God. We have been talking about the covenant. Let's start there. What is a covenant? In the covenant of life, what did God require Adam to do? To obey God perfectly. What did God promise in the covenant of life? To reward Adam with life if he obeyed God perfectly. What did God threaten in the covenant of life? To punish Adam with death if he disobeyed God. Did Adam keep the covenant of life? And today we're going to learn about what the definition of sin is. So the question is, what is sin? And sin is a lack of conformity to or transgression of the law of God. And we'll break all that down. So repeat after me. Sin is any lack of conformity to. Or transgression of. The law of God. Let's try it again. Repeat after me. Sin is any lack of conformity to. Or transgression of. The law of God. Let's break all that down. What does the word conform or conformity mean? If something is not conforming, what does that mean? Tricky word. So when something is conforming to, and we're talking about sin, there's two ways that we can sin against the law of God. The first way is any lack of conformity to. If we were shooting arrows and doing archery, what would be the goal of what we're trying to do? If I'm shooting arrows at a target, what would be my goal? What would be the thing that I'd want to do? Simeon? In the bullseye, right? I'm trying to aim for a specific target, the bullseye. The first way that we can sin is there is a standard that we are all to conform to or to be exactly like. So if I had a mold or a shape, I want things to be exactly that way. I want it to conform and look exactly that way. The law of God is a standard that we're all to be exactly like and to obey perfectly. So the first way that we sin is anytime that we don't do that, anytime that I do not obey the law of God perfectly and conform to it. The second way that I can sin is a transgression. Does anyone know what transgression is? If someone is trespassing, what are they doing? If someone's trespassing, what are they doing? It could be. Yeah, going somewhere they should not. Are they accidentally doing it or purposely doing it? Purposely. So the second way that I sin is I know what the law of God says. It says do this or don't do that, and I'm purposely breaking that law. So one way is there's a standard that I must meet, and I don't meet it in my thoughts, my words, my deeds. The law of God has that standard. The second way is, I know I shouldn't lie, and I'm going to do it anyway. I know I shouldn't cheat, I'm going to do it anyway. I know I shouldn't steal, I'm going to do it anyway. So there is two ways that we sin, and it just shows how our heart is so deceitful. It is so darkened by sin. Now, what is our standard? The law of God. What is in the Old Testament? Where do we find the summary for the law of God? Where do we find that? What is our standard? What is the law of God? Where can we find it? There's 10 statements in the Old Testament. What do we typically call those? 6th grade. Brogan. Right, the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments are a summary of what God is expecting us to do and how we are to live. Jesus summarized it in 2 ways: love God, love your neighbor. So that is our standard. We must perfectly obey to that standard. And anytime I don't do that, I sin. Anytime I willfully choose not to follow the law of God, I sin. So it puts us in a pretty bad spot, right? So we'll keep working through, like, what can we do? Like, oh no, we're not conforming, we can't meet the standard, and then I daily choose to break the standard. What can we do? And it's going to lead us to our need for Jesus. Speaking of standards, our school rules. Yesterday we talked about obedience, and not just outwardly doing it, but from the heart. The second rule is to fear God. So we know God in his covenant. It's a relationship he has. He gives us blessings if we follow it, and he threatens curses if we don't. There's rewards and blessings and punishments for disobedience. If we know that to be true of God, and it is, then the things that he tells us to do, his commandments, we do because we fear him, not because we're scared of him, although we do know that he can punish us because he is in the rightful place as our creator. He is just to do that. So yes, I do understand that if I sin against God and break his law, he is right to punish me for that. But I also know that he is my Father in heaven who loves me and has adopted me, taken me from death to life. And because of that, I thankfully will serve him. So fear of God is this place where I understand that he is right and just to punish me for every time that I break his law. But I don't want to break his law because he loves me. Sometimes we have gone to a place, maybe we go to a summer camp, and there's somebody who's really harsh and mean. And I know that I don't want to break the law because he's going to be mean to me. So I'm choosing to just comply. And sometimes we meet people that just love us and don't really care what we do, and it's okay, kind of do whatever you want. God's not like either one of those things. God is perfect in his love for us, but he's also perfect in his justice for us. So when we follow the rules here at school, we are practicing following the rules that God has for us in the law of God. And we do it because we are thankful and we love the things, we love serving him, we love being obedient, but also know that if I do make a mistake and I do break the law, I do break a school rule, my teachers have the ability and authority to punish me, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to have that. So I'm going to thankfully and willfully choose to serve God by following the rules here. So fearing God is having a healthy respect for God, knowing that he can punish me, but I do things out of thankfulness and love. The greatest gift that God has given us is his Son. We're going to be celebrating the Easter season here in a few short weeks. And so we're singing about the great power that he demonstrated in his resurrection, and that power now is present in us. So up from the grave he arose.
Waiting the
So today we're going to fear God. And we do those things because we love him, and this love that he demonstrated to us, we thankfully and gratefully will serve him. It will not be something that we have to do and grit our teeth, but we do it because we live a life of gratitude, and we do not want to live a life of sin. The Lord be with you.